Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Talkin Kop. I'm Gav, that's Chris, that's Kev, and this is a transfer show. We done some shows on our Patreon on Tuesday night. If you haven't seen them, go and check them out if you're on our Patreon. If you're not on our Patreon, the link is in the description, patreon.com/Talkin Kop. And at the end of those shows, or the end of that show, myself, Chris, Kev, and Ashley, I think it was, that done it on Tuesday night, we were like, yeah, Liverpool have made contact with Newcastle and are asking, what's the crack with Isak? And Newcastle were having a bid rejected for Isak Ekitike in the region of 80 million euros because A, it wasn't enough money, and B, the instalments didn't suit Frankfurt. That's where we sat on Tuesday night, and everyone went, look, a couple of days and we might get something out of this. And then it just exploded again last night and all day today anyway. Kev, I'm going to come to you. When we finished up on Tuesday, I think we were all kind of in relative agreement that, look, Liverpool's possible top target here is Alexander Isak. Liverpool have made contact directly with Newcastle United to let them know of their definite interest. And we felt that maybe Alexander Isak or his agent or both has given Liverpool the nod to say, yeah, you go and tell them that you want me. Otherwise, why would Liverpool waste their time? I don't know if it's done at 180, Kev. I don't know if it's done at 90. I don't know how many degrees this is turned. But it feels like there's narratives everywhere. Newcastle just bid for Ekitike because it'll push the price up, and I don't think that's how the game. Yeah. I don't think that's how the game is played, Kev. But let's start with this from a Newcastle point of view and try to be objective, right? Instead of just shouting, they should sell. From a Newcastle point of view, Kev, just reading between the lines, they make a bid for Isak Ekitike, and the word coming out is that they're going to make a bid for Isak Ekitike, and they're going to bring him in and keep Alexander Isak, to which an awful lot of people didn't agree with that. They thought it wasn't, they couldn't sustain those two players in the squad and that sort of money. Where, if you're Newcastle, where are you on this? Because you've made the bid, it's been rejected. Now it's been reported Liverpool are way along the line with Ekitike and possible terms agreed. What's Newcastle's plan here? Forget Liverpool for a minute. What's Newcastle's plan?
Liverpool. All right, forget Liverpool for a minute. Newcastle, I can remember us doing a show with a Newcastle fan going back years ago where they wanted to sign him then. This was before I think it was before he went to PSG. So He was at Stade Rennes. And they were desperate to get him then. Then they tried to get him from PSG before he went to Frankfurt. And now they're trying to get him from Frankfurt, and this isn't the first time. They've tried before. So it's no secret that Newcastle are big admirers of Isak Ekitike, have been for a long time. Now, if you're Newcastle, you're sat with Alexander Isak with 3 years left in his deal. Okay?
Which are comfortable with.
They're very comfortable with it. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got the player. They've got the price. So why the hell would they give it up? They're in the Champions League this season. And I said this the other night. They're on Alexander Isak, they're in the box seat with a player, as we've seen with this transfer window just gone, or this season just gone, with Salah, Virgil. The players have all the cards. Trent, the players hold all the cards when it gets to 12 months. I think that's close to 18 months now. I think you're looking at potentially the players hold all the cards at 3 transfer windows. So Newcastle are at the stage at the minute where they can look at it, okay, we got Champions League football. We think that the Premier League will maintain their 5 Champions League spots. And if we keep Alexander Isak and we add a striker, if that's Isak Ekitike, which we know, we desperately want him, we believe we can score enough goals to maintain a top 5 season, this season coming. And we can revisit Alexander Isak next summer when he's got 2 years left on his deal. If he refuses to sign a deal, there's going to be loads of suitors out there. As we've seen this summer, the market for number 9s of that ilk is slim. So he'll hold his value for next season, irrespective. If they're going to get a value from this season, he'll hold their value for next summer as well. So I think Newcastle are sat there like, okay, unless something stupid happens and someone is willing to pay stupid money, we'll have what we have, thank you very much, and we'll bring in a striker to replace Callum Wilson. And when you look at the amount of minutes that Callum Wilson played last year, Isak played, I think, 34
league games.
Exactly. So, yes, they're going to have a minimum a minimum of 8 Champions League games in the group phase next year. More than likely, they'll get out of the group phase, and then it's lottery after that. So you could be looking at 10, 12, maybe even 14 games maximum that Newcastle could be playing extra in the Champions League. So they do need a quality second striker to replace what Callum Wilson couldn't offer them last year. Is that guy Hugo Ekitike? I think that's what they want. I think they probably do want to try and do that. But at the same time, when you look at it from a financial point of view, I read an article the other day, and it basically said if with the amortization of Alexander Isak at the minute, because they signed him for €70 million, he's got 3 years left on his deal, he's probably on their book value, the amortization value to Newcastle is 33, 34 million. So if they were to get 120 million in for him, that would free up 70 plus million in amortization money that they could splash in Hugo Ekitike and then have financial wiggle room to go again for depth in the squad. But it's a gamble from them. It's a huge gamble from their point of view, but I think it's a gamble they're willing to take, that they can get into the Champions League as long as the Premier League holds its 5 positions for next season. That's where I think Newcastle's point of view would be. That if I was a Newcastle fan, that would be my point of view. We've got the player. I want to hold on to him. Unless Liverpool or anyone else are willing to pay Neymar money, then nah, we're fine.
Chris, Davey T, our resident Newcastle fan, in the group said, and Ekitike was a funny one for him as a Newcastle fan. We as a fan base aren't sold on him. We are 4-3-3 would take a complete change to fit him in, right? Now, Chris, just going back to Tuesday, the sounds coming out from Newcastle when this bid was made to Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike, everyone was going, aha, they're getting in early. They're going to sign this guy for 80 million euros, 80 to 90 million euros. They're going to sign him, and it's definitely a trigger that Alexander Isak is probably going to leave the football club. And Newcastle tried, the Newcastle media, and maybe David T can tell me more, but it seemed to be from the Newcastle side, they're like, no, we're signing this guy to bring him in, to play him with Alexander Isak. And everybody chuckled a bit more, because they're like, you're not breaking up that midfield three and the way you play, and the counter-attacking style you play, by throwing these two lads up front. You know, unless you're going gung-ho, Ozzy Ardiles at Spurs sort of thing, and hoping to just score more goals than anybody else. Yeah. And, you know, people weren't buying that, Chris, right? And they make a bid, it gets rejected. And Liverpool on the same day are telling Newcastle they want Alexander Isak. And when it's rejected, Newcastle do nothing else. And now all of a sudden Liverpool are in advanced talks with Hugo Ekitike. Again, from a Newcastle point of view, a couple of things, Chris. If you're in Newcastle, and I'm asking you this question, why don't you just come out and say that Alexander Isak is not for sale? Just come out. You don't have to say anything about Hugo Ekitike, because if you come out and say Alexander Isak is not for sale under any circumstances, end the story, and make your bid to Eintracht Frankfurt, then people will go, oh, well, maybe they are bringing them in. But Newcastle seem very silent on one side of the thing, but seem to be quite vocal on the other. If you are in the Newcastle camp, are you comfortable with that? Does it make sense? If you are a Newcastle fan, like, I'll ask Davey T out straight in the chat as well. Does it make sense to you, Davey T, that Newcastle have said he's not for sale? They have not said that. They could easily come out and say that 100% and then make your bid. Does it make sense, or are we reading way too much into this, and maybe they just do want to splash massive amount of money that possibly they don't have in the PSR world, and everyone's just going to have to chew her up? That's it.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I took it as when they go for Ekitike, it's like, I didn't fully buy they're going to play the two from up front, because it'd be quite a tactical change. I mean, last time Eddie Howe played two up front was when he was at Bournemouth, but that's when he had two out-and-out nines and played three at the back, and the setup of that Newcastle squad doesn't work with a two up front, three at the back. It just doesn't, because they're already centre-backs light. So all I can think is maybe Liverpool have put the pressure on to see if it'll push Isak to do a move. I mean, they've sort of gone through the press and said, like, he's not for sale. The only thing that doesn't quite float with me is if he's not for sale, then you don't sort of bat a price out. He's not for sale, not even for 120 million. It's like Liverpool at the moment. We're not selling Diaz. Well, not unless you give me 100 million. So you're a bit like, well, you will sell. It's just a certain price point. And in terms of Liverpool, I think Liverpool are being proactive, which is, well, let's get our ducks in a row with Ekitike, because what we don't want, and Liverpool have been stung with this probably before, which is where they got stung a little bit with the Caicedo deal, was you went in for a player, it probably dragged on a little bit too long, and you left it quite late then in the window to bring someone in. Look, it worked out well because we got Gravenberch, but it doesn't always. So maybe they just thought, well, we need to get that. But I think Kev shared something with us before from your favourite person, Fabrizio Romano, which, look, we all have our opinions on him. He's quite a divisive character. But the way he wrote his tweet about Liverpool and the Isak deal made them sound like they were separate deals for Liverpool, which was bold. But if we talk about the elephant in the room from a Liverpool perspective, the manager doesn't want Núñez. We all know he's going. And sadly for Liverpool, we lost Jota in tragic circumstances. So we are going to be two strikers light. So, but look, from a Newcastle point of view, I think part of the reason they don't want to sell Isak, partly because he's a fantastic player, it's also a little bit of saving face, because with the money they've got, I know there's a PSR thing, is, they want to break into that regular top 4, top 5. And it doesn't always look a good look to the fan base if you're selling your best player, best players who's one of the big boys come knocking. From a business perspective, you can see how selling Isak could work. But I don't know. I think the fact that Liverpool have gone down the route of almost agreeing a fee with Ekitike does feel like possibly the exact thing. They've got word that he's not willing to push it, and they're going, right, that's fair enough. If he's not going to push it, we'll move on.
Yeah, and that's been the other kind of element of this with regards to Alexander Isak. If Liverpool are going to Newcastle, like, for me, I can't see Liverpool going to Newcastle directly between club to club and saying, listen, we're interested in Alexander Isak, without the player saying, yeah, I'd be interested in moving, but you'll have to go through the club. I just can't see Liverpool going there without any sort of encouragement. Now people will point to the Moises Caicedo thing at Brighton, but Brighton actually encouraged Liverpool to go and bid for that player, because Brighton at the time had a pain in their bollocks with Chelsea, because Chelsea wouldn't pay what Brighton wanted. Brighton set a price and went, that's the price. If someone wants to pay it, they can pay it.
They accepted the bid. They accepted the bid from Liverpool for it.
Yeah,
so
and Liverpool went in and bid that, and then Chelsea went in and done the same, and he went to Chelsea. That's fine. But Liverpool would have got some encouragement off that. It wasn't like Liverpool went in blind and went, 115 million. And they went, what the fuck are you doing here? The sort of way. It was a real case of they were given some encouragement there. And I just can't see. We see it all the time, There'll be no issue with personal terms with Kerkez. There'll be no issue with personal terms with Wirtz. The reason there'll be no issue with personal terms is because they've spoken to the player about personal terms. They've spoken to the agent about personal terms and got the okay, and then given the nod, go and do the bit. You're okay at this end, go and do it between club and club. And that's where, like David Thies is there. The chairman did say he named Isak, Tino, whoever that is, Livramento, Bruno Guimaraes, and Tonali is the ones that weren't for sale, right? But what I'm saying is that if that's fine, but when Liverpool then make an approach and say we want them, just come out and say you don't. That's it. We're not selling them. It's as easy as that. But just that's the Newcastle. If I'm Newcastle fan or a member of the Newcastle hierarchy, whatever, I don't think I'm sending out the right signals unless I tell people we are not selling Alexander Isak. We're putting 90 million quid on the table for Isak Ekitike, and it's going to all deal with the fact that we're going to change system. And Elanga's signed, and he's going to play right side of midfield now. He's not a right side attacker; he's a right side midfield. We're going 4-4-2, lads, right? Because if you're playing them two, you're going 4-4-2, right? And I don't think that's sending out the right signal. I would have just said he's not for sale, and we're putting our bid down, and that's it. I'm worried if I'm a Newcastle supporter. I'm not going to lie, because the money that's there right? The money that's there and talked about for Ekitike, I don't think Liverpool are the only ones waiting in the wings here. And, Newcastle could play a game where they say, right, Isak has said, look, he'd like to talk to Liverpool, right, if the fee was right. And someone comes in and just snatches Ekitike from him. And I don't know. And listen, it might be way further down the road than we believe, or we know. Ekitike could have deals agreed with Newcastle and Liverpool. His agent could have 2 deals agreed, and one's champions of England, one's won a cup this year, both are in the Champions League. What is the levels between them? Well, I don't know. That's up for you to decide what the levels are. But I'm a little bit uneasy if I'm Newcastle, simply because you make a bid on Ekitike, and then Liverpool are down the line, and Liverpool go back in for Ekitike then. Go back and go. We'll give you 90 million then, and make your bid, and firm up your signal that you're keeping Alexander Isak and you're signing this as the backup, because not the backup, but a guy to play with him. Because the other rumour coming out of Newcastle at the minute is that Vissa from Brentford is the move now, and he's not going to be 90 million euros. So now it looks like you're going down the scale.
He's a bit of a different player as well.
But what I'm saying is, in terms of money, right, you're going down the scale here. So why did you start at 90 and then you're moving down? You surely go for the player that's 40 or 50, and if that doesn't move for you, you might have to go a bit higher for somebody else. But that's the way it is. It's just
and even with the Wissa deal, I think it came out from Ben Jacobs that Brentford have made it known they're not going to sell both Mbeumo and Wissa.
well,
So
in fairness, United have rushed in now and decided that 6 weeks after making a first bid for Mbeumo, they're going to make a second.
But it could be a situation with Newcastle now where they're going, well, if we don't get Wissa, that's 4 strikers now we've missed out on. And as Kev says, the options for strikers are dwindling. There aren't many options around.
Yeah, well, Gyökeres going, and there's not an awful lot around. Sesko.
Victor Osimhen. Yeah, Victor Osimhen apparently has agreed to go to Galatasaray.
Yeah, that was always going to happen because they were all just haggling over. It wasn't the amount; it was the way it was going to be paid. But Kev, on the Liverpool side, right? We're going to go on to centre halves in a bit because we're all a bit curious on that. But Liverpool need a striker, right? You can argue they need 2. There can be an argument that can be had. But Liverpool need a striker, a main number 9 striker. And we needed that, before what happened to Jota. We knew we needed it. Before, Napoli start bidding for Darwin Núñez, we needed a new number 9. The top end, your number 1 striker. Liverpool, that's what they were looking at. And we've seen links. We didn't see many links to Gyökeres at all, but we've seen like little whispers of Sesko. We've seen stuff around Isak. We've seen stuff around Ekitike. That's been the 3, really. Now, Kev, on the Liverpool side, going back to it, why are Liverpool wasting their time going to Newcastle and making an inquiry if they think he's not for sale? And not only that, allowing Newcastle to go and bid for the guy that you want in the background, in Ekitike, and setting a marker as a money. He might have a buyout clause, actually, I don't know. But
I think he does, yeah.
Yeah, he may do. But Kev, are Liverpool trying to play this 4D chess, as people talk, or is it a risky business to play? Because as much as it's a risk that Newcastle might, lose an Isak or an Ekitike, Liverpool could end up going, oh, Isak might happen, and someone goes and buys Ekitike, and Isak says, no, I'm not going, I'm staying where I am.
Yeah, look, if you read what Romano put out this morning, and look, he's not sitting on his sofa just typing something out. That's worded very carefully. So it's worded in a way that, look, Newcastle or Isak more than likely through his agent, yeah, I'd be willing to listen to what Liverpool have to say. You have to go through the channels and whatever. I think by the looks of it, Liverpool have gone to Newcastle and said, look, we would be willing to bid up to £120 million. That's it. That we'll leave that with you. And if you want to let us talk to the player, fine. If you don't, okay, we can't go any more than that. That's where we're able to go. And they've just gone away then. Now, for the last 2 weeks, publicly on transfers, Liverpool were dead. There was silent. There was nothing. There was no noise, no nothing. Rightly so. In the background, privately, I bet you there was phones hopping off left, right, and centre, trying to work out what we're going to do, and how we're going to react to this, like now, this week. If the reports are to be believed, that Liverpool were interested in Ekitike and the legwork started back in around March time, that would stack up. We all pretty much guessed back then that we were going to need at least a striker, all right, because it wasn't working out with Darwin. He'd lost faith with him. We always knew we were going to need at least one. So they were probably looking around and saying, okay, who's available? Who would fit how we want to play? And Ekitike's name will definitely have been on that list. They would have almost certainly contacted Frankfurt and seen, is he available? Is there a buyout? Can we discuss it with the player? They'd have done all that type of legwork, and they wouldn't have just done it with him. So the fact that Liverpool are looking to do a deal for around £70 million when the player has a buyout of 86 stacks up with Newcastle, because this goes back to the Spurs and the Diaz thing. You set a price, we'll come in and we'll match it, and we can already agree better payment terms to the club, and we can agree the wages with the player as well. So, and we're probably in a stronger position to be able to challenge for more trophies than what Newcastle are. So we're a better option as well.
Plus but is it a balancing act, Kev, for Liverpool? Because
yeah, 100%.
You go Ekitike sitting there going, oh, well, I'll agree terms with Liverpool on a 6-year deal. And is he sitting on his hands going, I hope fucking Alexander Isak doesn't turn around now and, slap a transfer request down on the table at Newcastle, because then I've fully committed to Liverpool here, and now they're signing Alexander Isak, and I'm left sitting here like going, what's going on?
I wouldn't surprise. I don't think anything is off the table this summer. I mean, I didn't think we were going to get Florian Wirtz, and he was never on my radar at all going into this summer. I don't think anything is off the table. It wouldn't shock me anymore if Liverpool turned around and landed both, and then looked to shift on Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Harvey Elliott, and whoever else. They're not building for the next 3 months. Richard Hughes is building for the next 3 years. And one half an eye is going to be on the post-Salah era. And how are we going to get goals in the post-Salah era? Well, if you think this is the guy to do it, you're going to start looking to bring those players in now. You've still got the likes of Jadon Danns in the background coming through. You've still got Rio Ngamoa coming through. So Liverpool have always been this case where their long-term planning is really very good. But with what's happened this summer so far, it means that we've got to react to that. It's completely unexpected. Nobody can plan for what happened this summer. So you have to react to it. And if the reaction is, look, Newcastle, there's what we're willing to go on Alexander Isak, leave that with you, and then we'll go away and we'll go and try and get the other guy who's available that we can do a deal with. Because Liverpool had no choice but to take Newcastle at their word. No, he's not for sale. Okay, fine. We leave that bid there, and if you want to talk to us again, that's where we are. And then just go off and do what we have to do. Because we have to I agree with Chris, I think we have to bring in 2 strikers. Now, if I'd be worried going into the season if Hugo Ekitike is the one guy who comes in and that's it. I think that we can make a second striker with Chiesa. I think we can manufacture stuff with other players. But I think that we should be looking to bring in 2 nines.
I can see there's a few people getting, in the words of Shawnee Lawson, horny in the chat there. But saying maybe we go and sign.
Gav's going to put a cold shower on you now.
Maybe we go and sign both of them. I can see. Look, I'm of Liverpool being the cleverest people in the room, etc., etc., etc. I can see a world where Liverpool get those 2 players, because you get Isak. I think it's basically going to be a case of who between Liverpool and Newcastle ends up with Isak and who ends up with Ekitike. I think that's where we are. And I cannot see a world where Liverpool turn around in 3 weeks' time and have Ekitike and Isak in their squad. Listen, financially, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see them spending 200 million quid on these 2 players and then going, right, Elliott, Núñez and Diaz is going to bring us in 170 million quid. And we're going to walk away, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to literally say, that's our net spend done, right? Or and that's our spending done, and you throw Guehi in or whatever it might be. But I can see a world where we get both of them. Chris? What do you think is Liverpool's next move here? Because we're all talking about going on tours. They're off to Japan and wherever they're off to, and Hong Kong, isn't it? Is it Hong Kong they're playing?
Singapore, I think.
Singapore. And we're all talking about they're going next Monday. There's not a hope in hell we're signing a player by next Monday. There's not a hope in hell we're signing one of these players by next Monday, right? But there's talk of going on tours. If they go on tour when they come back, they want them for the Bilbao games. They want them for the Charity Shield, and there's all sorts of timelines being put on it. But timelines are crucial here, Chris, because even if Newcastle haven't slammed the door in Liverpool's face on Alexander Isak, Liverpool I don't think can afford to sit around for another week or fortnight going, they might ring one day, today might be the day they ring us and let us know what the story is. Liverpool can't wait.
Well,
and is it the fact that they're doing the Ekitike thing, they're saying to Newcastle, we won't wait?
It could be. I mean, apparently Frankfurt have letting know in the German media they want this boxed within the next 24 hours. So Frankfurt are also putting their own pressure on. Because to be fair to them, Frankfurt are also like, yeah, we know we're going to sell him. We expect to sell him, but, we need the money so we can go get somebody else. So, Frankfurt are also, we can't hang around waiting for you 2 decades to decide which one of you wants and just, pull your finger out. So I actually could see Ekitike getting sorted by the weekend to whoever he's going to, because I think Frankfurt, they get the money they want, but also they're also hard to negotiate as well. They're just like, well, we just want this done now because we've got other things to be getting on with. And to be honest, from a Newcastle perspective, they need a Callum Wilson replacement, and even if they get that, they need for me 2 centre backs and probably another fullback if Livramento gets poached by City, which is still a rumour that's going around. But Newcastle need centre backs. So it's not like they just need to box off one position of a sorted so they can sit around and play games. They both need to get it sorted. For Liverpool, I actually think they need to get striker sorted this weekend because they need to sort centre back out as well. I actually think whoever the striker is sorted, they need to do a centre back next and then get the final attacker. I think they're the 3 deals they need to get done and done pretty quickly.
Yeah. Davey T says, by the way, there's been an awful lot of animosity on streams by both sets of fans. Of the utmost respect for Liverpool and hope this doesn't start a bad relationship between the clubs now. Davey, listen, don't be panicking. Once you're in here, kid, you're all right. You won't have any problems with us.
We'll mind you.
It's football, for fuck's sake. We'll all get heated and throwing stuff around, but we never fall out with anyone.
But in fairness, you think about it. Remember what we were like with Coutinho when he was going?
We didn't like it.
No, when Barcelona came in and had him, we were like, yeah, we got great deal. But I'll tell you what, the amount of visceral hate towards Barcelona as a football club over that happening and how it was done. Yeah, I can understand how Newcastle would be really annoyed at the fact that Isak is getting linked away. But in fairness, what do you expect? No disrespect to Newcastle, but look, I mean, you've won a League Cup. Yeah, great. But we know why you're there. And we know why you are where you are. And you've got a really world-class player, right? And one of the best number 9s in the world. You're not challenging for a league. So he's going to get attention. And if it wasn't from Liverpool, it would be from someone else. No doubt at all. It's amazing to me that Liverpool are the only club actually seriously linked with him this summer. I'm surprised that there aren't other clubs around the world looking at that and looking at the money that's involved in this and saying, you know what? He's 25 years of age. Look at Harry Kane. Look at what Harry Kane has done for Bayern Munich this season. He went for 100 million. And he was 4 or 5 years older when he went. So it's not beyond this is what I mean. It's 120 million pounds. Newcastle can say they want 150. Of course they do. That's why they didn't come out and slam the door completely shut. Because they will believe that someone somewhere will do something stupid and panic. And so we have to do something now. And pay the money.
That one who does something stupid could be, to be honest, the club that we don't like, Real Madrid. If rumours to believe that they might want to be shipping Vinicius Jr. off to Saudi for outrageous money. If that's the case, Isak would be perfect for Real Madrid. Play Isak through the middle and put Mbappe where Vinicius Junior plays wide left. That would be perfect for Real Madrid, and that'd be horrible. I mean, because as much as Newcastle don't like us at the moment, we feel like that about Real Madrid. The amount of players they've pinched from under our nose, or players they keep trying to poach off us, you can understand how people feel about it. So
No, listen.
But that's where I'm saying that I can understand sometimes that a Liverpool someone trying to keep the door open, because there is also that thing of, Madrid are like, they actually could just turn up and just go, well, there you go, there's the money, off you pop, and then you're done for them.
Yeah, I think the difference with Coutinho was pretending to be injured and everything else to try force that move. Then plays 4 or 5 months of his best football before he actually does leave, and then when he leaves, Liverpool just ramp it up and go from there, and they're brilliant ever since.
Who do you flight to Brazil helped you back?
Yeah,
I think the saving grace for Newcastle fans is this. I don't think Alexander Isak would do what Gyökeres is doing to get out of Lisbon.
No, I don't. I fully agree.
I don't see that character.
Not publicly,
if he was that, if he was that character, I don't think we'd be as keen as we are on it.
Not publicly anyway. But I think nudges and winks here, because, like, if Liverpool if let's just say Newcastle don't shut down the Isak stuff, right, and Liverpool go back in and go, well, listen, we'll go up that high. What do you think? And the player privately tells Newcastle, I'd like to speak to them, right? Now, he's not going to walk out St James's Park and go to Liverpool and be, everything's fine. Sure, Andy Carroll didn't even get to do that, for fuck's sake. But I think instead of making it massively public, Newcastle could sell it as, listen, it's 120 million quid. It's a British record transfer we've been offered, and we feel we're signing the next Alexander Isak in Hugo Ekitike. But I do think, and you know what, I might go back on what I said. I said there's not a chance in hell. There might be a chance that Liverpool just go, fine, we've asked you, we've not even got an answer out here, or we have got a definitive answer. Fine, we're down the road with this guy. We're going to sign this guy. But then that leaves you with an Isak that, if he did have an inkling to go to Liverpool, now you have a player that's not in the best of form. But we don't know his mentality. We speak about Luis Diaz, wants to leave the club. But if Liverpool don't sell him, I've no doubt Luis Diaz will go and play well for Liverpool next season. And Alexander Isak could be that exact one. As same mentality, wants to play football, wants to do his best. Not going to let that affect him. But maybe it does move quicker than I believe. I can see Liverpool doing both. But I did think at the start of the week, Liverpool were just squeezing Newcastle and saying, we want him, but we will go over here and take him. And Newcastle are going, fuck, because that's the fella we want. You know what I mean? I think Newcastle would be a lot more comfortable if Liverpool went, well, listen, if you don't get him, we go and sign Sesko. And Newcastle's like, we've no interest in fucking Sesko. Because if you believe all the data and the stats on these players, both of them for Liverpool rank very, very highly. Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike in very similar areas. And a lot of people see Hugo Ekitike as an Isak's type player. Just he's probably 5 years younger than him, I think, is he?
Yeah. And he's still quite raw at the moment.
Yeah, he is. And you take that risk. Do you do 120? Well, if you can, you do it. But if you can't do 120, you do 80. And you say, you know what, the 40 million, we'll put it somewhere else and we'll help this guy develop with our other 40 million by buying another winger to help or whatever it might be. It's going to be interesting, because I did think Liverpool were putting the squeeze on Newcastle. But now it feels to me, by Liverpool putting it out there, I thought it was a good move when I seen it. Ornstein and others this morning saying Liverpool are well down the line. With Hugo Ekitike, 6-year deals is being discussed and personal terms, and the fee won't be an issue. I thought that was clever at the start of the day, but the longer the day goes on, I kind of say to myself, you're probably showing too much of a hand here. You're probably showing too much of a hand. But
unless they think it's virtually done. It's literally, it could be a case. Do you remember with Florian Wirtz, we got to that stage where it was literally just ironing out the payment plan. Because I don't think we're going to pay the release clause. I don't think anybody is. The release clause, £86 million. We're not paying that. He's not worth that anyway. So
yeah, £86 million.
£86 million.
So it's 100 million euros.
100 million euro, yeah.
That's his buyout.
So I think I can't see Liverpool going any more than 70 million euro for him. 70 million pounds.
So 84 million pounds ish.
Yeah.
Euros.
Yeah, 84 million euro. I think 70 million pounds in today's market is kind of like the Brian and Buemo money. I think you're in and around that with someone. I mean, I think Buemo is a really good deal, even at the price because of his Premier League experience. But he's a year older, and he's a different type. Ekitike is tall, good with his feet, quick, technically very good for. I hate the phrase "technically very good" for a big man because it sounds like Peter Crouch then. But he's, he's on the verge of being either something special. Someone put it in the chat earlier on. He's either got to be Nicholas Anelka or he's got to be in Ngog. One of the two. I think I err more towards he's more of the Nicholas Anelka type. He gets goals and assists, and he could be anything. But I'd worry if he was your main man for this season coming up at all. I think he needs someone to help him.
Aaron,
That's probably where sort of like the Mateta links from Palace might make a bit more sense.
yeah, Aaron Robson's in the chat, and he might be a Newcastle fan just reading by this. If you are, you're very welcome. He says Newcastle were never selling Isak and forced Liverpool to buy a player they don't even want, and now you've spent your Isak money.
Oh, there, one of them.
Well, Newcastle were never selling Isak. That's absolutely possible, but I can't understand why Newcastle just don't come out and go, you know what, we're not having this. He's not for fucking sale. That's all. That's my thing. Now, Davey T did say that your chairman said earlier on in the summer that himself, I think it was Tonali, Bruno Gomes and Livramento were not for sale. That's absolutely fine. Force Liverpool to player they don't even want. If Liverpool didn't want this player, they wouldn't buy him. That's not how Liverpool work. Like, trust me, as a Liverpool fan, right? We could want Alexander Isak. We could be fucking stamping our feet for the whole summer, the whole collective of Liverpool, and the club will go, we don't want him, we're not buying him, we don't care how many people want him. That is not how they work. It simply is not how they work. But the biggest thing in this, Aaron, for me is that if Newcastle have made a bid for Ekitike, which is widely reported that they've made a bid for Hugo Ekitike, when Liverpool say they're down the road, why don't Newcastle go, well, do you know what? Let's do this Uno reverse, as the kids like to say, and turn around and say, do you know what? There's 90 million euros on the table instead of 80. Now how are we fixed? You know what I mean? Because why are Newcastle making this bid if A, they don't want the player, and B, if there's any sort of competition for this player, they're going to walk away. There's no way Newcastle have gone in there and went, make a bid for Ekitike, and that'll get Liverpool to go in and buy Ekitike, and, you know, they won't get Isak. Aaron, I've news for you, right? I don't think it'll happen. But if Liverpool thought they could get both, I think they'd go and try get both. That's the money Liverpool have at the minute. You know, and that's not bragging or anything else. It simply is the truth. Look at all the financial experts with regards to PSR and spend and profit and loss and everything else on the football and side of things. Liverpool are swimming in money. Absolutely fucking swimming in it. And the thing about them is they're not spending 350 million quid and literally going, sell fucking a few lads there with 10 million apiece. They're literally sitting with 200 million pounds worth of footballers ready to push out the door, and we'll get that price for. And that's where I think it is. But don't get me wrong, we're trying to look at it from a Newcastle point of view as well. And from a Newcastle point of view, I think the only mistake they've made is possibly bidding for Hugo Ekitike, unless they were definitely going to bring him in to play alongside Alexander Isak, and I just don't see that happening. The only curveball with it is that if you wanted to bring Ekitike in and play him off the left, and the Anthony Gordon comes back into a scenario where Anthony Gordon may leave the football club, and that ties in with Luis Diaz. And the only reason I'm tying Luis Diaz and Anthony Gordon together is because last summer Anthony Gordon was heavily linked with Liverpool, you remember, and Newcastle at the time, Davey might be able to tell me, or Aaron, for if he can, that Newcastle were looking for, it was either Joe Gomez, and then it was reported Jarell Kwanzaa. So there could be something in that as well, but that seems to be very, very, very quiet. Go on, I'll ask you, boys. It might change in about 3 days, but I'll ask you. Chris, I'll start with you.
Oh, thanks.
What's your gut tell you?
We get Ekitike, Gehi, and another wide forward.
Okay. Fair. Kev?
I think we'll get Ekitike done. I think we'll get Guehi done and possibly another 9. I don't think we sign another winger. I understand why people might think that we need one. I don't see why. I just don't. We've got 4 wingers currently at the club who were at the club last year. And bar Luis Diaz, none of the other 3 are being linked away. And the club has been really firm on Luis Diaz. So, and that noise from Bayern went away pretty quickly after the Dover slam shut in their face hard. So I think it'll be 2 9s and a centre back. My only thing would be, the clock's ticking.
Aaron's come back to us. Thanks, Aaron. He says, we wanted the player, but we're always going to keep Isak. That's fine. I can't really argue with that. If you didn't buy Ekitike, who would you have gone for if we had both of them? Well, you see, that's kind of my argument on this, Aaron. Why aren't you going for both of them? Why aren't you going to get both of them? Because if we take all the smoke screen and the talk and the chatter and the rumour and the narrative out of this,
He's got a
Newcastle are the only one that have made a solid bid for Hugo Ekitike. So why aren't they still going for him? All of a sudden today that's disappeared and we're being told, no. Newcastle didn't want that player, don't want that player. Newcastle are the only ones to make a solid bid, an actual bid to Eintracht Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike. I think you're putting in a question there at the end. Just in a general sense, if we didn't buy Ekitike, who would we have gone for if Newcastle had been successful and got Hugo? I think it's a difficult question. I'm not going to lie. At 120 million, if you're ringing Newcastle and saying you're interested, I'd be ringing Atletico Madrid and saying I'm interested in Alvarez. I have 120 million here if you're willing to deal. I don't think I would have got you there, but I would have made the phone call. If you're ringing the Northeast, ring Spain. Right? It's not going to cost you much more than the tariffs. It's grand. You have minutes.
WhatsApp is free.
It's absolutely fine. You can WhatsApp them. It's all right. It's no problem.
Get on a Zoom.
The Sesko one never really interested me. Although a lot of people rate him. Gyökeres did, but then what's going on with Gyökeres? I'm like, no, you're all right. Do you know what I mean? He feels like if he gets the wrong colour bib of training, he's going to go on to his agent and go, get me out of here. So it's a really good question. And I suppose the fact that Aaron is asking that and the numbers are very limited, as to who you could get, that sort of speaks for itself. And that's why it goes back to who ends up with Ekitike and who ends up with Isak in this. I just don't see a scenario where the club takes both. I just don't think there's enough players to go around where someone can have 2 of them, and that's just the way it is, numbers-wise.
In fairness, Antoine makes a good one there. I think Brian Mbeumo would have been on our radar if we weren't already talking to other players way before the transfer window opened. Because I like Brian Mbeumo. I think he's a really, really good player. I think Jan Vissa is a really good player as well, but I think at 28, Hugo Ekitike fits the FSG model to a T. 23 years of age, best years ahead of him. Stats-wise, he's a dream. And, he's got experience. He's been around the leagues. He's been in the lower leagues in France. He's been at a big club at PSG, didn't work out. Went to Germany, reinvented himself, and got his career on a good path. And, the next move is a big move, whether it's to Liverpool or to anyone else. It's going to be a big move into a Champions League club. So,
Damien says Ekitike and Rodrigo for him. Go for Isak next summer. We don't go near Isak next summer.
No.
This happens now or it never happens.
I say after this summer, we'll be quiet for the next 2 summers.
Yeah,
that's how Liverpool do it. They do a splurge every 3 years.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. But look, I'm sure this will rumble on over the weekend. We could be sitting here. We could be on the Sunday night show here talking about it. I think it'll be Sunday night, and we could be talking about this again because something else has happened and something else has come out. But it's interesting, and I want to thank Aaron and Davey, the Newcastle fans in the chat there that are throwing their comments in, and they shouldn't be afraid to throw them in. You're very welcome here. You always are. Moving on. Sorry, did I ask myself what I think happens?
No, you didn't ask yourself.
I find it hard to see that Liverpool don't sign Ekitike because I think Liverpool don't go down the route of going all that way with Ekitike and then saying, by the way, Isak's available. Good luck. I think Liverpool. I just can't see them acting like that, right? I can't see them signing Isak as well. I just can't. So, hand on heart, I think they sign Ekitike. I wouldn't rule out Anthony Gordon if Luis Diaz goes, because I think the Rodrigo money is bonkers. You know, he's on 240 grand a week in Spain, right? And I think they pay
that's a lot more in England.
Yeah, it costs a lot more in England, so I don't think that. But I think Anthony Gordon could come back into the frame if Luis Diaz leaves. And the next player I'm going to talk about signs for Liverpool, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. And Kev, I'll come to you first, and that's Mark Wahi.
Yeah.
Because while Liverpool dealt with a really, really difficult situation over the last couple of weeks, a couple of days prior to that, Mark Wahi was heavily linked with Liverpool. It was all about what the fee was going to be with Crystal Palace change it. In the meantime, nobody has gone near Mark Wahi, from what I can see. Crystal Palace have gone Europa League, the Conference League, if I'm right in thinking, right? And they will appeal that, but I can't see them getting away with it, to be fair, because UEFA are fucking pricks. And they're
banked to rights as well.
They are banked to rights, but I can't understand how this rule is one for one and another for someone else. You know, there's multi-club ownership everywhere, and it just seems to be.
I hate it as well.
Whatever humour they're in when they're making these decisions, whatever day it is, you know, someone in UEFA got too much jam on his sandwiches, going to work and decide, right, well, that's it. I'm fucking going to be a prick today. And then other days, an envelope lands on his desk, and you own 4 clubs. Don't worry about it. In you go. You can all play against each other, and that's the realism.
Sounds like me. Sounds like me. Feels like.
But Kev, Mark Wahi, no one's gone near him. There hasn't been links while Liverpool have been quiet, understandably, where, Arsenal or Chelsea or pick a team have moved into pole position for Mark Wahi, and this is the fee. It's gone very quiet on him, but it's not gone quiet to the point where Liverpool have been written off or another club has come in and said, we're going to sign Mark Wahi. We need a centre-half. I've seen pictures of Jarell Kwanzaa arriving at Bayer Leverkusen today. Simply put, Kev, I'd be amazed if he doesn't sign for Liverpool.
I'd be really worried if he doesn't, because we're not linked with any other centre back at all. It's actually eerie when you look at it. The fact that up until Diego Jota passed away, Mark Wahi was on every sports talk sport. It was on Sky Sports. It was everywhere. It was pretty much a done deal. It was just a case of when are Liverpool going to get it? When are they going to get this done? Absolute radio silence, but radio silence from everyone. Radio silence on the Palace side, the Guehi side, and everyone else. And we notice what happens when a club is linked with, when one player is linked with one club, and everyone in football knows that is just going to happen. Nobody else talks about it. Everyone else moves on around him. And that's what it looks like with Mark Wahi and Crystal Palace and Liverpool. The world has moved on around him with everyone else looking for signings. And everyone should be looking at it. He's brilliant. He's really, really good. And especially for the money and the experience and the age and the profile of the player. If you're looking for a centre-half in the Premier League this summer and you're not looking at Mark Wahi, there's something wrong with you at every club. So the idea that nobody has even anywhere linked with him just screams to me that it's just a case of Liverpool get the striker done and then they'll box him off as well. Mm. But I can't understand why the two aren't done at the same time. I can't understand why it's not done now. And the fact that, get him in, get his medical done, get him on the tour, and just get on with it. I don't understand the hold up on this at all. I really don't.
Mm. I do a little bit. I think it's all around the Diogo Jota and the club dealing with stuff, and I don't think they're quite finished with dealing with stuff on that. And I think that takes precedent over anything.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and listen, to be fair, it's Thursday now. They go away on Monday. There's nothing to stop Liverpool making that signing on Saturday and saying, listen, you fly out with us Monday. And players will be well able to do that. Chris, Mark Wahey, because everyone gets excited about our forwards and wingers and whatever. But at the end of the day, we in a position where we had 4 centre-backs and doubts over some of those centre-backs. We now have 3. So we need 4 at the minimum. And whether you agree with the lineup of that 4 or not, we need 4. Mark Wahey, go on, talk to me.
He seems to be the only name that's been linked with any sort of vigour. And like you said, no, the fact no other club's been linked with him this summer says it's almost like it's known where he's going. Like, going back to Newcastle tried to sign him 2 or 3 times last summer. So, and I can't imagine they don't fancy him this summer just because of last year. So, it feels like he's sort of gone. The only thing interesting with Mark Wahey is a step away probably from the type of centre-backs we've had before. You know, he isn't dominant in the air compared to a Konate or a Van Dijk. He's probably a bit better on the ball, a bit better at being a ball carrier. So I do wonder if it's a little bit of a horses for courses situation with the 4 that we have.
I think he looks like an upgrade on a Joe Gomez style centre back. That's what I think he is. Yeah,
possibly. He's probably, although Joe's probably still a little bit better in the air than him. But I was just thinking, there were just times last year where we were dominating the ball where he kept subbing Konate off and putting Gravenberch as centre back. He did that a few times when we were chasing games, and you kind of thought, that's probably because although Konate's improving the ball, he's nowhere near as good on the ball as a Van Dijk, and probably doesn't drive it out as much yet as we need him to. I mean, it's an area of his game he can develop. That's something Guehi's better at. So I think he just gives you a bit of a horses for courses. So it makes sense. I suppose it's just, I think with that one, you kind of just want that one over the line, really. Then it's done. It'd just be interesting to see our Palace interested in a Liverpool player going the other way, a bit like how we do with Kwanzaa. You know, do they want like a Doak or someone of that ilk, or an Elliott?
I think it does happen. I think that one. I think the scenario where Liverpool have gone to Mark Wahey and agreed and gone to Crystal Palace and said, look, tell the player we're interested. You just sit tight, because of what's happened. Give us a couple of weeks, and they've gone to Crystal Palace and said, look, the player, we know the player wants us, so you sit tight as well, and we'll be back to you, and we will organise what needs to be organised there. I think that's what happens with Mark Wahey, and I wouldn't be surprised if that one is announced fairly soon. I'm not going to lie. I think, because otherwise we're starting a process again, and it would feel like the club are starting a process again. And I'm only going off reliable journalists putting out the Mark Wahey stuff. It would feel like a process starts again. Now, I'm not saying to start from scratch, but you go back to your list and you go, right, we've done legwork on this fella, so let's go there. I can't see it, not this close to the season. But
have you guys seen us linked with anyone else?
No.
Any other centre back?
No.
Hatto's the only one we've had.
Hatto and people in the chat are mentioning
Lekeba, yeah.
Lekeba gets a whisper here and there, and then there was somebody mentioning a player from Parma there, a very, very young centre back.
Scalvani, is it?
No.
I think the reason we talked about Hatto and Lekeba from Leipzig was, I think they were mentioned in the Joyce article, which was, Liverpool are really keen in Guehi, but they have got other options.
Giovanni Leone at Parma linked with 35 million move to us as Pierce. So, and Jerry says we're linked to an 18-year-old centre-back at Parma, but to be fair, he's more 4th or 5th choice development player, Huyson-ish, seemingly. Look,
the other thing is, though, Palace haven't signed that. I don't think Palace have signed that lad from Sporting yet, have they?
No.
Diamanda. I wonder if that's what... That also could be the other hold-up, is, sometimes clubs do this, you can have just let us get our ducks in a row.
Domino move.
With domino moves. It's almost like they could be just waiting for a nod from Palace going, yeah, we've got him. And again, Palace's moves have probably been delayed because they thought they were Europa League, they're now Europa Conference, they've got to appeal it. If the Europa Conference, that probably has a different ilk on who they buy in the summer. As in, maybe they don't go for quite as high a calibre of player because you could get away with it in the conference a bit more than you can in the Europa League.
Yeah.
So that could be the other thing. That could be the other
Aaron
reason why
says,
it's a bit of a delay.
yeah, Scalvini is at Atlanta.
That's it,
Newcastle
yeah.
chasing him. I did see Newcastle linked with him as well, and he's very highly
Yeah.
rated. He was massive for them in their Europa League run, weren't they, when they beat Leverkusen in the final in Dublin that time, a couple of years back. Davey comes back. He said, Gav, I always feel very welcome here. I was talking more about the channels that have been disrespecting each other, heirs included. Bell ends. You know, like you should be able to. You should be able to argue football and be passionate about it and shout a little bit and roar a little bit and swear at each other a little bit. We do it all the time here, and we're all Liverpool fans. But then at the end of it, it's like it's a game of football. Like, you know what I mean?
Should read the WhatsApps.
Yeah. So there you go. But look, as I said, Davey's in here a good while now, and it's not only us saying it. Everyone in the chat has a lot of time for Davey. He gets an awful lot of mention in our Telegram group as well as a sound bloke here. So that is fair enough. And if Aaron continues to watch Fair Play as well, we do talk Liverpool. We talk loads of different things. And we try not to be, red tinted glasses all the time. We're giving a Liverpool point of view, but we like to look from other point of views as well. That's about it. This is kind of an impromptu show because we genuinely done a show on our Patreon the other night thinking that'll be that, lads. You know what I mean? We have the rest of the week off because we are trying to lay off on the shows because we're still, what 2 weeks since the passing of Diogo Jota, and it still feels a bit too early, to be honest with you. But when we did say when these things happens and a bid gets closer, a bid is done, we'd have to come on and do it, and that's why we're doing it tonight. Sorry, Kev, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I still don't like talking about, the reason why we need two strikers or one striker or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's the elephant in the room. And that's going to take a while to try to ease that in. I'm still seeing videos like the Jota tribute videos coming out, the mural stuff. It all still feels surreal.
It does. It does, and they have to go on their first tour. We said this. I think I said this on Sunday night, and I think you might have said it before.
A lot of
first
as well.
Yeah, and to be fair,
getting all the first out of the way. That's
because I actually you've done a show reacting to the game, and then I done a show later on the night. And when I listened back to both of them, I was like, "Fucking hell!" Me and Chris must have been listening to each other because we were nearly saying the same thing. But it is the first tour they go on without Diogo Jota. It'll be the first game back at Anfield. Well, there's 2 games in the one day, but it'll be the first of that. The first league game at Anfield. There's loads of that to come, and Liverpool will mark all these moments for Diogo Jota. It's not a case of we've done that now and on we move. It's never going to be like that. So yeah, look, it's been an interesting 48 hours to say the least, and I'm not finding myself in a scenario where I'm desperate. Oh, who are we going to get? I'm really intrigued as to how this goes, just to see, because it's very rare you see this happening.
We're also learning with Richard Hughes as well. But this is the first real summer we're seeing him in operation.
Yeah, and you know the way we talk about domino effects, right?
Yeah.
You would think
around football,
the domino effect would be Newcastle sign him, and we get him, and then when we get him, we sell him, and then when he goes there, and that's the domino. But this feels like 2 dominoes leaning against each other. Yeah, but we feel like there's 2 dominoes just leaning against each other, going, no, I'm going nowhere. And that's what it seems to be. It's like loggerheads. Look, it's an interesting one. I think you'll see another twist in the tail, possibly in the next 48 hours again. And then I don't know what Monday brings, and we see where we go from there. We're going to leave it at that. Thanks a million to everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. If you're not already part of our Patreon, you're very welcome to try it out. Try it out for a month. If you don't like it, knock it on the head. Patreon.com/Talkin Kop. The link is in the description if you want to do that. Kev, anything else before we go?
No, I was just going to ask Chris about the striker, the world record fee the Liverpool women got in.
I don't want to talk about it.
He doesn't want to talk about the women anymore.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
You don't like football anymore, do you, Chris?
I don't like football anymore. Yeah. You break your club record for a player, you get her for 12 months, and then she goes for a world record fee to Arsenal. So we're back to square one with no manager.
World record fee?
World record fee for
1.1 million. She's the previous record was $1 million, which was for Kira Walsh. So
this girl signed for Liverpool a year ago. Now she's gone for a world record fee to Arsenal. Yeah. Wow. Oh, okay.
And when Liverpool signed it for 250 grand, that was a club record fee.
Oh, okay.
And she's only 19. She's really good.
nice.
That's why it hurts.
Okay.
But I've been watching the women's Euros in the corner. England have got through to the semi-finals in the worst penalty shootout I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I think it's about 12 penalties, and I think they've scored 5.
Okay.
So many misses and saves.
Okay.
It's good. It's good fun to watch.
If anyone hasn't seen that, get off this and afterwards go and check out England against Sweden, wasn't it, in the Euros quarterfinal penalty shootout, which was meant to be unbelievable. Jean Lavin says, "Watch for the transfer request, lads." Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Might take that. It might take that.
Yeah,
It might do that. I just don't see it. I just don't see him doing it. To be fair.
And Red Steve, for an unprovoked attack, he said, cheer up, Bracky. This is how Davy T will feel when we get Isak. So, yeah, Jesus, I hope Davy's gone. That was an unprovoked
Davy,
attack.
don't worry. Red Steve's a prick. We all know that.
All right, that has been the Talkin Kop. Thanks to Kev, thanks to Chris. I've been Gav. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Talk to you in a bit. Over now.